Hello there. My name is Mackenzie. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for being here. Today, we are going to do my December wrap-up. And I left all of my notes. I wrote them all out. They're all over there. Hang on, let me go get them. So in December, I read a total of 12 books, 4,980 pages across 7 genres. 1 book I read physically, and 11 books I read mixed media, where I had the physical and I listened to the audiobook. 7 of these were 4-star, 4 were 3-star, and 1 was a 2-star. This has been like one of the only, I think there were only 2 or 3 months out of 2021 where I read 2-star books, and this was one of them. This month had some of my most surprising and most disappointing books ever, so let's just get into it. As always, I'm going to go through the books in the order in which I finished them. Some of them I started before the others, however, I'm doing them in the order I finished them. First, I finished The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. I picked this up because it's been a year since I read my last Ruth Ware, and I remember it being so amazing to me, so amazing, I got the rest of her backlist. So I have all of her books aside from One by One, and I just wanted to read it, see if I still like her. It blew me out of the water. This is Knives Out if it was a soap opera. It was so good. I went into this really not knowing too much, and I kind of love going into her books that way because I feel so thrown into it, everything's a mystery at the beginning. I don't remember the main character's name, but basically her mother died maybe 2.5 years ago, and she's only 19 or 20. She lives on her own. She's working as a tarot card reader on a pier, and she's really just down on her luck, has no money, is running out of time. Then she gets a letter stating that she is to inherit money from a woman who died, Mrs. Westaway. And then it goes from there, and she figures, okay, I don't know this woman, but maybe I'll get some money out of it. And I really enjoyed her character because I felt like she was just too good of a person. Anyone else, anyone I knew who had gotten a letter like that would have taken the money and run. And she kind of truly involves herself into this whole family dynamic, but it was so good and so interesting and twisty but believable and so soap opera-esque. I enjoyed this so much, so I gave this a 4-star. The next book I finished is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. So I had been wanting to read an N.K. Jemisin all year. I had this one, and then I have her Broken Earth trilogy, and I was well, I'll probably be able to finish one of them, so let's get an entire work out of the way. This was the most surprising read, I feel out of all of this. I did not expect it to be so good. So fantastical, so sci-fi, Lovecraftian. It's it's so good. And it was a little bit mysterious at the beginning, and I feel that's kind of just me because I don't read the entire synopses of a book before I read it. I just kind of find phrases or blurbs and I just kind of go with it. So this plays with the idea that big cities, once they become so big, they take on a life of their own and they actually become alive. And when that happens, the city chooses an inhabitant of the city to be the avatar, to basically help the city live. It's so cool. So basically New York, because there are 6 different boroughs of New York, there are 6 different avatars and then the main avatar. And we follow the main avatar through the birthing process, and shit goes down and he disappears, and then we have to follow the rest of the avatars as they try to find each other, and then they go to find the main avatar. This was probably one of the most interesting books I read all year. This was so crazy and thought-provoking and interesting, and I had feelings about it, and I couldn't stop talking about it. I told everyone about this book. I really enjoy N.K. Jemisin's writing. It really makes me want to read more of her work, but I also want more of this world. We don't have to keep following New York, but I'd love to know more about other cities being born, or like we get Sao Paulo, he's a person and a city obviously, but we also get Hong Kong. It's so interesting. I'm sad it's over. I need more. There is like a prequel short story that like came before this. I'm not sure if it's in physical. I forget what it's called. I'll pop it up right here. I think it's only an audiobook, and I hate that because I want a physical copy. Oh, I gave this a 4-star too. Okay, so the next book that I finished was Dead Dead Girls by Nikesa Afia. This was one of my anticipated releases in 2021. In the month that it came out, was it September? It was June. I think this book really definitively told me I do not like historical fiction. I just don't. I don't like the racism of it. I don't like the sexism of it. I don't like how everyone feels trapped in their roles. Aside from the setting that I did not necessarily like, this was a very interesting kind of mystery. It borders on cozy with how, like, soft it can get. But because of the historical fiction setting, it's so much more gruesome. Like, there's an attempted rape on page, and, like, it's not fun. So it's much more like thriller-esque, I guess? I don't want to say thrilling. It's not exactly like edge of your seat, but it is like murder mystery. It's not as cozy as I thought it was going to be. Anyways, we follow Louise. She is a cute, sassy lesbian woman, and like, I loved her. She was great. I just didn't like that, like, everyone around her kind of sucked. Like, her family sucked. I hated them. Her dad, awful. He's a pastor. I mean, of course he is. And that's not why he's awful, but like, of course he is, right? Louise had a past where she was kidnapped, and she escaped and helped free the other women that were trapped with her. Now it's like maybe 7-ish years later, and black women who look like her are turning up dead. It's a little weird. Like, the ending resolution kind of gets a little bit weird. Like, it ends up making a lot more sense why a lot of things in the book happen, but it also was just a tad bit strange. And also, this is something. This resolution is a lot more like, yeah, obviously the person responsible is doing this because of racism, but like, racism in general isn't the bad guy, which is something that I appreciated, because definitely pull those social issues into your murder mysteries, your horrors, your thrillers, but I also want there to be a person, a bad guy, justice, you know? Otherwise, it feels like there's really just no justice. You're just living. I did enjoy it. I do want to continue. I don't necessarily love the historical fiction aspect, but I do think I'm going to continue. It's obviously not an all-time favorite. I did give this a 3-star. Why am I continuing if I don't like historical fiction setting? Well, I do like our main character. She's so funny. She's sassy. She's like making moves. She's not taking shit. Her dad beats her and she's like, fuck you. She's really one of those characters, because it's really bothersome to have a character, especially in historical fiction, who like accepts their fate. I hate that. And they just like, yes, I will just let you continue to beat on me and I will be here and like let you degrade me. Like, this doesn't make sense to me. So she was a strong character. She's dating this girl who's a twin. So she's dating the girl twin, and the boy twin is gay, and he is so cute, and I love this little dynamic. It's really sweet, and I want to know where her character arc goes, and I want to make sure that she's going to be okay. So even though historical fiction isn't my favorite, and there was a lot of things in here where it was like, yikes, on bikes, but I'm going to continue. 3 stars? Next, I finished Ace of Spades, and this was kind of like, it was interesting following these up back to back, because what did they say this was? It's like Get Out meets Gossip Girl, but like the villain is racism in general, and it's like, that's hard for me. I know racism is the bad guy. Can I get justice? It didn't feel like there was enough justice that had been gotten, okay? Like, people... So much happened to these kids. These kids were like mentally and emotionally abused. And like, it's rough. I don't think... So this is a 4-star, is a low 4-star. I don't even know. This was like crack. Like, I couldn't stop reading. It was so sad, but I needed to know what happened. Devon, I feel like, got the worst end of it, and it took me a while to care about Chiamaka at all. Because, like, she was just Regina George for, like, a moment. Like, I can't even tell you anything. Low 4 stars. I don't necessarily feel like enough justice was gotten after what Chiamaka and Devon went through. Like, they give you an epilogue for you to, like, feel like everything's okay, but it's just not. And, like, this is like a horror. It's not fun. It's horror in the sense that, like, yes, it doesn't feel like there's ever going to be a good resolution, a good enough resolution, but it's also YA enough for them to, like, include an epilogue years later to where you can feel like some sort of happiness has been gotten. But I did enjoy it. 4 stars. I'm probably gonna read anything by this author again. It was rough. It was rough, buddy. I can't say anything else because all of it would be spoilers. Next, I finished The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I gave this a 3-star. No plot happened for like 150 pages, and then all of a sudden there was plot. But mainly this book was about child abuse. And like every 10 pages, Vasya was getting beaten. I hate historical fiction. I didn't realize how much this was historical fiction aside from just like fantasy, but this is straight up a historical fiction with light, very light fantasy overtones, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate that. This book wasn't as bad. I did end up reading the trilogy this month. This one wasn't as bad, but I did not like it. There was so much child abuse. It was gross. She's getting groped. Like, in the same chapter where they're trying to marry her off, and she's getting groped by this disgusting man, her parents, beat her for not making the match with the disgusting man. Like, I just don't. And then, like, it would be one thing if that's her circumstance, but it's a completely other thing where she's like, you know what? I love these people, and I care about these people who are beating me and who don't care about me, and I want to be here. Why? Why do you want to be here? Why do you want to save them? Like, it did not make sense. At least in this book, it had a lot of, like, not a lot, but there was enough fantasy to, like, keep me placated. Like, a lot of this is like a bunch of little myths that were kind of like schmooshed together, it feels like. So there are these devil spirits, like guardians that like live in the village. Like, one is in the hearth and one is in the yard and one protects the horses and one's in the bathhouse, and they kind of just like protect the house. And this guy, after his wife dies in childbirth and his daughter grows up to be about like 5, he goes to find a new wife, and he brings one back from Moscow, and she's like, I don't know if they're like Christians. I'm gonna say Christian. I don't think it's Catholic. But she's like a super Christian woman. She wanted to go to a convent. Her dad was like, no. And like, at first I felt bad for this chick, right? She's only like 16, 17. She has to go marry this like 30-year-old man. And like, that blows. I totally felt for her. Until she came back and started literally beating this 5-year-old for nothing. Like, not for me. And so once this new wife comes, she's basically killing the house spirits by her belief in like God, because she also brings like this priest. She calls for a priest to come, and he's like causing everyone to not want to pay attention to the house spirits. And like, not much happens. There's a Winter King, and all I wanted was for her to be with the Winter King. And like, we never got there. It was never enough. It was just enough to placate me, but it wasn't enough to make me happy. Very low 3 stars here. Whoa. Then I read The Binding by Bridget Collins. Ooh, my nails kind of match. This one was very interesting. So this is about Emmett, who is a farmer. His name is Farmer. I loved this book. It was so good. It was a 4-star. So Emmett this is very much reminiscent of Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. It was very sweet. Emmett goes to a witch who calls him to be a bookbinder. And binding is like binding people's memories away so that way they won't remember them. Now, a lot of this book has to deal with like the abuse of that power. Like, some abusers will abuse people, get their memories bound, and then abuse them again. Like, it's awful. There's a lot of awful in this. And I feel like a lot of this story was talking about how there are small moments where you can find happiness in your life. And when you do find those moments or those people who make you happy, you have to hold on to them for dear life because, like, you might forget them. Oh my God. So when he's at the witch's house, he finds... through a series of events, he finds a book with his name on it, meaning his memory has been bound. So, like, it's all about, oh my God, there's like one whole part. Okay, so this part is like the whole beginning part that I told you about up until the part where Emmett realizes that he has a bound memory. And then this part, ooh, it's so good. This part is his bound memory, everything that was bound. And then this part is about him resolutioning, okay? It's so good. It's so sweet. It's so cute. It's everything. It's everything. Love. 4 stars. And then, this is where I start to deviate from the original TBR very abruptly, very like definitively. I was going through my bookshelves. I was trying to put new books. Not new books, but I was setting up my 2022 journal. I'll link that video up in the cards for you. And I was putting all of the books. I wanted to make sure everything got on my physical TBR that I haven't read yet. So basically I realized that I haven't finished the Heroes of Olympus series by Rick Riordan. I only read like the first book and a half. And then I never read the last 2 books. And I want to because I'm reading more of the Rick Riordan Presents imprint books. I know The Cursed Carnival came out. I know that there's a lot more like overlapping material and books, and I just wanted to get back into it. So I reread The Lost Hero. I did read this when I was in high school. I read it again. It was kind of interesting because I remember not really enjoying this book in high school, but it was because of Piper. She's a daughter of Aphrodite, and she seemed so boy crazy to me when I was in high school. But like, now that I'm just older, I understand that it is because she is the daughter of Aphrodite that she is so invested in the people that she loves, even like romantically, and also her friendships, her family. The love that Piper has is very intense, and I didn't like it as a teenager, but I did enjoy it here. I thought it was really sweet. I thought the characters were really interesting. Jason so let me just tell you a little bit. This takes place after the events of the original Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. So after book 5, The Last Olympian, it's probably like 2 years, maybe a year after those events. We are not following Percy, we are following Jason, who has lost his memory and comes to Camp Half-Blood and is a son of Zeus. So we have Jason and Piper, and then we have Leo. Leo is everything. So cute, so sweet. I loved him, and he was so funny and sweet and cute, and their friendship is so nice, and I love to see the way that Piper was described and how her character as Aphrodite's child was just a little bit more than the superficial aspects that we saw. So this follows the trio as they go to Camp Half-Blood, realize that Percy is missing, and then they kind of go on this like little adventure to try and find Percy. So without giving any more spoilers, I gave this a 4-star. I really enjoyed it. I was very excited to continue on in the series. And so I did. I read The Son of Neptune. So this is my first full read through of this story. I read about half of it when I was in high school, and then I went into a deep, dark depression. And I didn't read anything for years. So I read this one. It was really great. We're following Percy again. We found him in the first book. We come to realize that there are 2 camps for Half-Bloods that didn't know about each other, and that's where Percy had been. I don't want to give too much away, but I did also enjoy the characters that were in this. I felt like, so it's Percy and a girl named Hazel and a guy named Frank. And Hazel and Frank's ages, like, they weren't exactly clear with me about how old Hazel was, so she just felt like a little too young to be with Frank. I don't know. It seemed a little off to me, but their relationship was very sweet. It was very cute. It's very like, I don't know. I don't even really know what to say because it's like the second in a series that is a sequel series itself. It continues to be wonderful. I didn't really have too many issues with this. I felt like in the first book, it felt a little strange because the two camps were introduced, but it felt like one camp was being talked up better than the other. In this one, it feels like more so that they are a bit equal, that they could learn from each other, and maybe meshing them might be not the best idea, but taking advice from each other is a good idea. I really enjoyed Percy in this. I felt like I got to see a lot of him grow up from the last series. And it also, like, this one was, I feel like I'm sweeter on this one just because I got to come back to Percy, and he's just such a fun character, and it was really nice to see him from the perspective of Hazel and Frank, who didn't know him for very long, and kind of got to know who this person was. So that was really cool and interesting. 4 stars for that one as well. Then I read this book. It's called The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. It's the second in the Winter Night trilogy. I gave this a 2 star. I hated it. I can't tell you why I hated it because of spoilers. Oh, I can. The fantastical elements that I really enjoyed from book 1 are almost non-existent in this one. And in fact, it gets worse. It's more historical and like sexist and like... Do you know that I'm done reading about women being groped against their will? I'm done with it. It's not something that's fun for me. It's not something that adds like effect, especially when the woman who's being groped and harassed consistently literally does nothing. She doesn't run away. There's a fantastical world she could go to. She doesn't. She doesn't care for it. She just stays in this horrible situation. And it's like, no. If I wanted to be depressed, I'd watch the news. I don't like this. It's not fun for me. I hated it. 2 stars. I hated it. Then we went back to something I loved. Mark of Athena by Rick Riordan. First time reading it through. This is from Wellington when she was a baby. And I can't get rid of it because it was my Wellington, my baby. But I'll also, like, obviously never be able to sell it or have, like, a good collection. Third in the series, in a book of 5. It was very interesting. We got perspectives from Annabeth for the first time, which I freaking loved, dude. That was amazing. I love seeing, like getting to know Annabeth a little bit more because of her perspective. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed seeing Percy through her perspective. I loved, in this one, we finally get a big group of people. I'm trying not to spoil anything. The people from book 1 and the people from book 2, and we're all meshing together, which is really cool. You get to see, I feel like you got to know a lot more of the characters because you got to see them through a bunch of different people's perspectives. So you really got to feel like they were well-rounded people. I really enjoyed that. I thought that I really feel like the whole prophecy and everything that we're working towards is really culminating in, not in this one, but it's getting bigger. And like, this is definitely the rising action of the whole series. It's very interesting. It's fast paced. It was like, I was on the edge of my seat with a lot of it. It was really, really good. 4 stars. I can't wait for the next ones. I had to order them. And then we just kind of ended the year with like some flops, okay? Yeah, I almost didn't read this book because of how bad book 2 was. There were more fantastical elements. This is The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. I gave this a 3 star. There were more fantastical elements in this than there were in book 2, which did make me enjoy it more. But by this point, I truly didn't understand the character at all. There had not been one person in Vasya's life who didn't beat her, abuse her emotionally or mentally, almost rape her or wanted to rape her, Like, she did not meet a single nice, good human being at all. Even her siblings were awful to her because she was different. God forbid someone be a tad bit different, but her siblings were awful to her. Dad beat her, mother beat her, every man she came into contact with nearly raped her or wanted to, and she, in her infinite goodness, decided that she wanted to fight in a war of men. Not in a war to save men from the magical beings, but in a war for Russia. Like, to fight, like... And it just didn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense. Why? Why would you give a shit? Why would you care? Why do you care about who rules Russia? You live in a village where it doesn't matter who is the king, first of all. Second of all of the people, all of the princes, all of these, none of them were nice to you. And in fact, they want to rape you now. Half of them try to burn you at the stake for being a witch. Why? I gave it a 3-star in the sense that I gave the new trilogy for Star Wars a 3-star, in the sense that I really enjoyed what they wanted to do with Rey and Kylo, and how they had this like bond, this Jedi thing, connection that they never developed on. But I did like that that was there, and that is something that I will carry with me forever. Kind of the same thing here. We get more of the Winter King, we get more of the bear, we get more of this magical, like, relationship that she's in, like, between all three of them and how the magic moves, and that's really interesting. But literally everything about Vasya's character sucks. I hate her. She doesn't make sense. Why is Vasya, like, God? Like, no one is as self-sacrificing as Vasya is for no reason. It does not make sense. I do not like it. I hate it. I'm probably never going to read a Catherine Arden again. I'm just probably not. And then I picked up Hang the Moon by Alexandria Bellafleur. Mainly because I thought this was going to make me happy. It did not, really. I gave this a 3-star. I did not like it. The third act breakup does not make sense. I saw it coming, first of all, from a mile away. Second of all, the way it actually plays out is, like, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And then, not to mention the fact that the epilogue completely invalidates the third act breakup. Completely invalidates it. Why, if the epilogue happens, why does the third act breakup make sense? Like, I enjoy Bellafleur's writing. I do not enjoy this main character, Annie. From the first paragraph, she irritated me. Annie is someone whose characterization is superficial at best and non-existent at worst. She's just there. These characters are just here. I felt nothing from them. And maybe, like, that was the whole point. Annie is in an unhappy place. So when you're unhappy, like, of course, you're not going to be as, like, vibrant as you are in a passionate situation. But, like, Annie was milquetoast and it sucked. And Brendan was kind of cool. I at least understood his path. There was a point in this where I didn't even want them to be together. I was just like, you know what, Annie, you don't want to be together? I don't want Brendan to be with you because you suck, and get out of here. I don't want you to have a happy ending anymore. There were a lot of things in this that I did enjoy. I enjoyed mentions of Darcy and Elle and their relationship. I thought that Darcy and Elle's characterization, like literally everyone else's characterization aside from Annie's, felt very good and well developed. This is a very white, straight romance. I was pretty sure that Annie was bi from the first book, but in this book, I had no idea. It wasn't until, like, at the very end when her and Elle are talking about how they're bi, and I'm just like, okay, this doesn't even feel organic. I don't know. It was white, it was straight, it was boring. I hated Annie. The sex was not that steamy. And Brendan has a tattoo of the balloon house from Up on his chest. And I'm sorry, but that is not sexy. That is almost a deal breaker. Or even cute. It's like on his chest and she's like right next to the flat of his nipple. And I was like, stop. Boo. Gross. Do not like. Okay, that's enough. And pardon me while I'm pretty sure I can do this. I'm gonna try and hold them all up. All right, you guys, 12 books, 4,980 pages, 7 genres, 1 physical, 11 mixed media. I did not reach my Goodreads goal this year. I read 118 books, but you know what? I read 12 this month, and I'm going to be happy with that. I hope you guys enjoyed this wrap up. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!